Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Chad here with another In the OT podcast for BetUpSportsBlog.com. And you want to talk about a can of worms being opened? Well, that's exactly what happened with the School of Notre Dame and former running back Alan Pinkett, who is now part of their radio team, who's gone on record and said some extremely controversial comments in regards to the kind of players that the Fighting Irish need in order to compete with some of their rivals, like an Ohio State that has definitely surpassed them in terms of on-field success over the last number of years. This is what he said, quote unquote, from the McNeil and Spiegel show on Chicago's 670 The Score, that having criminals on a team makes for a better product. I've always felt like to have a successful team, you've got to have a few bad citizens on the team. I mean, that's how Ohio State used to win all the time. They'd have 2 or 3 guys that were criminals. That just adds to the chemistry of the team. I think Notre Dame is growing because maybe they have some guys that are doing something worthy of a suspension, which creates edge on the football team. You can't have a football team full of choir boys. You got your butt kicked if you have a team full of choir boys. You got to have a little bit of an edge, but the coach has to be the dictator and ultimate ruler. He would go on to say, I don't want any mass murders or rapists. I want guys that maybe get caught drunking that are underage, or guys that maybe got arrested because they got in a fight at a bar, or guys that are willing to cuss in public and don't mind the repercussions of it. That's the type of criminal I'm talking about. Wow. Very interesting. And first of all, I'm going to give Alan Pinkett a little bit of credit because he actually said something controversial, which, something that I'm always going to support because of my big trap and the ability for one to speak their mind and be a bit of a free thinker instead of being always concerned about the repercussions that are often negative when you do speak out in public on controversial situations like this. And of course, this all comes following what has occurred here in the offseason or summer, shall we say, for the Fighting Irish, as they did have some of their players that had some legal issues, like a Tommy Rees for being drunk and getting into fight, and Jimmy Clausen and Michael Floyd before, who got into a little bit of problems, but nothing too crazy. But, at least they were doing something that maybe fit the mold of exactly what Alan Pinkett was saying here in terms of these guys being criminals. Now, the biggest issue I have here with everything is the fact that the activities that he was referring to aren't exactly what you would think of as being a criminal. You might think of it being mischievous behavior, someone who's acting a little bit immature, stepping out of line, but underage drinking, making some hooligan-type comments in public, getting into bar fight. You can't really say that that is a criminal. A criminal, in my opinion, is someone who does something severe enough that it really could put fear and danger into the rest of society. And while they might temporarily do that in a short-term situation, it's not a real long-term threat to go on and act in that nature. So that's why he's completely out of line by saying that they want criminals on the team, because he right away said they don't want murders and rapists. But when you think of what a criminal is, that is exactly it. Someone that is going to cause some havoc in society. So it is a little bit contradicting the comments that he has here on everything. So that's what I don't quite understand here from Pinkett. And then just from an actual success standpoint on the field, when it comes to those type of players having that edge that he's looking for to produce a better on-field product, I would agree that for the most part, players that maybe do have a little bit of a troubled history are more likely to be better on the field, but that's no guarantee. I mean, there's many schools that have had relative success without having players like that when it comes to sports, and in particular, you can look at Butler in the NCAA basketball. Obviously, it's not the same as a sport of football, but oftentimes you would associate similar criminal activity and behavior with basketball and football players, and you look at some of the smaller schools that have been pretty good when they've had their opportunities on the national stage, a BYU, Utah. Those are Mormon State schools that generally have kids that are well-behaved and not criminals. Boise State to some degree. So, that's why I don't necessarily buy all this, that you need to have those kind of players in order to be more successful on the field. Obviously, it might give you a better chance because those players maybe are a little bit rougher and tougher and have gone through a little bit more controversy on the field. So I understand that perspective. But to say that that's necessarily isn't always going to be the case. And when it comes to Notre Dame, I think you should understand the way that school is ran there. There is a little bit more integrity on the academic side of things. They actually do care about school, where some of the schools, like in Ohio State, they really don't care. It's all about the athletics and making as much money as they can from that standpoint. So when it comes to the standards of allowing these kids to even attend the school, it's completely different than a Notre Dame. So you have to understand the mindset of the administration, of the Board of Trustees, and the image that they have for the school and the way they're trying to uphold it. Now, I don't really care for that because I watch college football for that reason. That's the only reason I'm interested in college activities in the U.S. I don't care about the debating teams and who has the best law schools and all that kind of stuff. No, that doesn't provide entertainment for me, but I will respect Notre Dame for sort of having that firm stance and not wanting to bend on it. That's their own discretion, being the private institute that they are. So having gone there, Pinkett should understand that himself. So I understand his frustration. He wants to see the best team out there. He doesn't want to see them constantly losing in their big rivalry games, which are pretty much against what was then the Big Ten. What are they, the Big 12 now? I can't even keep up anymore. And that's pretty much, I think, coming from the frustration of his standpoint, and his point really was sort of completely didn't make a lot of sense. That's what I think about it, and you guys heard my opinion there, so I just wanted to get that one off my chest, as it definitely was something interesting that you don't hear said every day. Chad here with another In the OT podcast, betupsportsblog.com.